Hello everyone and welcome to the second session of the 7th week of the Angular development course. So in this session we are going to focus on the introduction to Angular Material and understand what is this a CDK or a component development kit. Okay. So Angular Material is nothing but it provides a set of built-in components and features that adheres to Google's material design specification, which the developers are free to customize and integrate to their Angular application. And what is CDK is nothing but it's a component development kit or component dev kit in short. And it is nothing but a set of behavior primitives for building UI components which can enhance the features of existing HTML elements. So what are the features of Angular Material? So Angular Material includes enhanced version of common HTML elements like input, buttons, etc. using material design. So instead of just using a simple HTML tag like say button or input, you can use the Angular Material version of it to give you a better user experience. And also it provides you additional components like progress bar and all, so which reduces your initial development efforts, and you can directly just use the progress bar and customize it and implement in your application. And another great advantage of Angular materials, it can be customized to extend the features which is provided and based on whatever application you are going to implement it on. So it's highly customizable as well. And Angular material also comes with its own built-in CSS, so it reduces the styling overload on the application. You don't really need to define too much of stylings again because each Angular material component comes with its own inbuilt CSS. Angular material is also fully cross-browser compliant and can be used to create reusable web component as well. And Angular material is fully responsive and web accessible as well. So by fully responsive, I mean it can be accessed across desktop, tablet, mobile, and any of the devices. And accessible means it also supports the web accessibility standards. So even people with any disabilities like people who cannot see or cannot hear, we can develop this Angular material components in a way that even if they are using some screen assistive technologies like screen reader, or they are trying to use the application through keyboard, they will be still able to do that. Let's try to understand how can we style the Angular application using Angular material. So for the real world application, we'll see how to use Angular material for a few use cases and try to see how can we embed the Angular material components as CDK utilities to create a real world application. Okay. So enough of talking. Now let's get into the demo of actually styling an Angular application using Angular material. So before we get any further, I want to first take you to the Angular Material website. So this is an official Angular Material website, which is material.angular.io. So if you remember, angular.io is your official Angular site, and if you just add material before that, that will take you to the Angular Material official site. So here you see first the kind of overview on what are the components available and why. And later on the top, you will also see what is the current version. So at the time of this recording, the current version is 13.2.4. But in case you're working on a previous legacy Angular application, you can also select which version of material you want. So Angular material basically kickstarted from version 5, when it really got matured and people started adopting it faster. So you are free to use it right from version 5 till version 30. And as the version keeps on increasing, even the older version will keep on deprecating. Okay. So currently we are in 13.2.4. Let's keep that. Next to it, you see a theme. So these are some of the predefined template themes. So in case you want the indigo and pink, this is the default one. In case if I decided to change it to say deep purple and amber, so you can do that. And you're also kind of free to change this theme as well. So we will also see that. I'll show you how can we do that. So you can also if you want to just use one of the built-in theme, you can just select the color over here. I will tell you why this is important. So now let's say assume we have three links over here: component, CDK, and guide. So I'll just come to component first. So as I said, it provides you lot of reusable components, I said, right? So these are a few of the components which it gives you out of the box. So one is say autocomplete. So what is this autocomplete is? Let's go to the example over here. You'll see that if I click over here, it automatically shows me a drop down. And if you see the HTML of it, it's only this much. So what we basically do is, if you see the HTML carefully, there are a few of these components which we are writing which is not actual HTML, like mat -form -field. So these are nothing but your Angular material components which are used in order to implement that. Okay. And also in your traditional HTML elements like say input and all, you will see a few of the directives like mat auto, complete auto. So this is nothing but a directive which is given by your Angular material, and you can just tune the value, and based on that the autocomplete and all that features will be enabled for you. Okay. So the basic advantage of using Angular material components is it will reduce the code for you. As you can see, code that you have to write is very minimal. And the other advantages being reusable code, you can quickly just get started, and if you want to customize it any further, you can also do that as well. And as I said, it also gives you inbuilt CSS, but you are also free to kind of customize it also. So I'll give you a quick guide on like help or a tip to how to use any Angular Material component. Since due to the length of this course, we will not be able to literally cover each and every component, and this list will also increase in the future. So in case how can we use any of the component over here, I'll just give you a quick walkthrough, okay, first before we start implementing it. So say assume I want to implement this batch. So batch is nothing but if you remember in Facebook or WhatsApp, whenever there's any unread message, you'll see kind of this number at the top, right, which says what is the number of messages which you have not read. So something like this as you see over here. So if you have to implement something like this, the first thing that you have to do is just go to that component you need. In our case, it is batch. Go to the API. So the first thing you have to do is you have to import this module in your application. Okay. So if you remember, we have something called this app module, right? Yeah. So here in app module, if you remember, we kind of if there are any third-party modules which we have to import, we do it the import of that in this imports section over here, right? So the first thing you have to do is whenever you are kind of implementing or importing any Angular material, go to the API section. You will see which module that particular component is using, and first import that module into your application. Okay. The next step would be just head to this examples page. You will see a lot of examples over here. In case of batch, there's only one, but if you take say maybe something like autocomplete, right, you'll see in the example tab there's a bunch of examples. So based on each scenario, you'll have a list of examples. So coming back to the batch, so in our case it's only one example, that is fine. So what you can do is in this example, right, you'll see first the HTML of it in case if it is available. So if you have to just see what is the code used to implement this, you can just hit on this code icon over here. You'll see the corresponding HTML and TypeScript. So you can directly copy paste it into your application or slightly modify it. And after that, based on your requirement, you can run it. The other way is you can also kind of there is an option to open it in the StackBlitz. So as we discussed in the first session, StackBlitz is nothing but instead of running the entire code in your local, you can run this entire thing in a web-based IDE itself. So instead of using a Visual Studio Code and downloading all that stuff, using StackBlitz, you can run the same application directly in the internet over your browser and internet itself without downloading anything in your local. So in case you just want to play around with this component and just want to try something, so this is a great option as well. So this is the option how you can do it. So any particular example which you have to play around, just click on this icon. It will open the StackBlitz site for you. So since you're opening it for the first time, it will just initially boot it and install all the dependencies. So the same way how we did npm start ng new and all that things. So it will do that for you for the first time. And after that, you are free to use this application in your browser itself. Okay. So this is also a great way to play around with Angular material before you even start implementing it in your project. Okay. So we'll just wait for a couple of seconds for this dependencies and this to start. And meanwhile, I'll just walk you through the other components as well. So even say, for example, you take a date picker. So same thing. So first I'll go to API. I will see what is the module which is being used. I will import that module to my, copy this and put it in my app module and add this to the import module. After that, I'll just go to example. I will see what is the example that I require. So say maybe I need this. This is the example I'm looking for, where I need kind of action buttons like apply, cancel. So in this case, first I'll check what is the code that I need to write to implement this, like HTML, CSS, and the TypeScript file. And after that, say assume I just want to play around with it. I'll just open it in the StackBlitz and the same thing happens. So it will just open it, run it, and once everything is ready, I can play around directly here itself. So let's see their example if it is ready. So it is still kind of installing the dependencies. So yeah, we'll come back to it once it's ready. So similarly, as I said, there's a bunch of utilities that you get which you can implement. So as I said, there's also something called a progress bar. So this progress bar, right? Based on the percentage something is completed, you can show it. And if it is like kind of a API load or something, you can do this. So this kind of progress bars also you can use. And there's also something like a slide toggle where you want to just enable or disable something. You can do that as well. You have menus. So you want to implement these kind of menus, you can do that. And similarly you have like a side navigation bar. So this you would have seen mostly in the mobile based sites. When you click on a burger menu, you see a side like this, a side map panel pops up. So all these kind of things you can do with this. And even for your traditional components like say checkbox, so Angular provides you with some basic stylings on top of it like this, as you can see over here. And if you want to use it, just head over to API, import this match checkbox module. And here you can first check what is the code which really requires which matches your requirement. and say like, I just need to do something like this, and where like, based on the selection, I need to update a model in my TypeScript. So I just go to see the code, how I can do it. And if I want, I can open the taglets as well. So I still see this taglets is kind of installing my dependency. So when you run it for the first time, it takes some time to like, download and start it. So, but anyways, that's not an issue. We'll proceed with this till that is up, just to show you. So next we saw is nothing but the CDK. So what is the difference between a component and CDK is components are more like a utility, which kind of like, are like you can say a standalone component which can be directly imported and used in your application. Whereas a CD is more of enhancement to the existing application. So say for example, there's something called a clipboard. So I'm sure all of you would have seen this functionality in many of the places, right? So say you want to copy some of the text, and next to your that you will have some clipboard icon or this copy to clipboard. So in this case, so say assume like, I want to copy this entire text. If I click on this and then say if I open my notepad and I just paste over here, you see that entire text is pasted over here. So how did that get implemented is using this clipboard CDK. So to implement this, again the same concept, you just go to the API, import this clipboard module into your Angular application, come to the example, see the code, like in the HTML, what we need to do is just add this directive, the CDK copy to value, and in the TypeScript file, you just kind of like import this. In TypeScript file, basically you don't need to do much things. So because it is basically like you're just going to enhance the existing button. So what you need to do is just say CDK copy to textboard and value. Value is nothing but the model, basically the value which you are entering over here, and automatically it gets copied. And if you want to see it in taglets, you can just click on that. Okay. So with that being said, we also have something called a guide. So what is a guide is nothing but basically if you're first to Angular Material and you want to understand more about Angular Material, you can go through this guides over here to understand how we can do it. Okay. So you can go to get started, how to theme it. And as I said, like, you can also add your own theme. So here you will get the idea of how to do your own theming as well. So as I said, say you don't like the default color. So this is the standard class which they use. So in case you don't want to follow this, you can customize this as well. So going through this page will help you understand to do that. Okay. So with that being said, we also need to understand why we require Angular material itself. So isn't it possible to style the Angular directly as well? Yes, the answer is absolutely yes. So if you open the same communication app which we created earlier, as I said, by default, whenever you create any application, by default there will be something called the style.scsh which will be created by your Angular CLI. So this is nothing but you'll see there is a comment already added stated that no, this is a global style to this file and also import other style. So basically what it means is throughout your Angular application, if you want to add some styling or like do some extra enhancements, you can do that using this styles.scss as well. So I'll show you how it works. So say assume like this communication app that we created, to my body app I want to add the default, the background color as say maybe aqua. Okay. Just one random example. I'm not adding it anywhere in my app component or anywhere. I'm just adding it over here. And let me just start the application. So let's see what happens. Okay. So you'll see now that the server started. We'll go and open our local application. Yeah. So you now see that, the entire application has turned into this aqua color and the component is working fine. And similarly, say like, if I decided I want to also add a padding, wherein like, I just want to reduce my application from touching the borders, I will just give it say a padding of 25 pixels throughout. You will now see that, the content has reduced and it has left kind of a margin across my browser. Okay. So this is how I can style my application manually. Either like if I want to apply global styles, I can directly do it using style.scss, or I may also create another smaller style files over here and import it over here. So that will like whatever styles I give over here, it will automatically apply to all the component which is created in my application. Okay, this is one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is I can also use something like Angular Material where I can use the default styling and components which is provided by it, and I can enhance those, customize those styles using this styles.scss and other component related style files as well. Okay. So what I mean by that is, so assume like now I import Angular Material in my project. I decided that I probably will go with something like this style over here. Okay. So I decided that I want to implement something like a button over here. Okay, this primary button. and based on the theme this color will change. So if I just change it to say deep purple and amber, okay, I decided that I want this color scheme. So all I need to do is I just need to see the code, and based on this I just copy paste it. And in case if I decided that okay, I need to just slightly customize some aspect of it, I'm free to do it the same way it is happening over here, right? So I can either customize it directly in that component as CSS file, or if I feel this is more of a global change, I can directly go to the style.scss over here and do it as well. And remember, as I said earlier, it's not required that you have to dump all the hundreds of styles over here. You can break the styles.scss into smaller style as well. So maybe based on the component, or like based on the screen, or based on the functionality, you can have multiple style files. So say for example, I can have one styles which is dedicated only to the colors. I can have one styles which is dedicated only to maybe one type of screen, maybe my home screen. So similarly, I can create those kind of common styles and I can import it over here. So that automatically will be applied to the entire project structure as well. So now we see that this tablets is up and running. So here, as you can see, this is what I said. So if you want to play around with some of the material directly, you'll see that you see the code over here. And if you want to play around with something, so say assume I decided that I want this text with the badge over here, and I decided that instead of 4 I just want to see how it looks for 45. So I can just add 45 over here, and you'll see that in a matter of a few minutes it will just recompile and it will show the recent text for you. And similarly, I decided I don't want all of these. I can just comment it out or remove it as such. And now you see the rest of the things. Once it compiles, it will remove the rest of the things and it will just show me the current element as well. So you see, similar to our VS Code, it also has a terminal, it also has a file structure, and it also has a browser. But mind you that similar to a VS Code, you will not be able to create new files in it. What you can like new components using ng CLI commands, but rather what you can do is using the existing file, you can modify it and play around with it. So this is a fast way to check any Angular features before implementing in your project. Okay. So with that said, we have reached to the end of this Angular material demo. What we'll do next is in the next session, we'll start to create a real world e-commerce application using all the concepts we have learned so far. And also I will be teaching you the best practices along the way, and we will be creating that from the scratch. Okay. So that will give you more of a hands-on project experience. So that's it for this session, and see you guys in the next session. Thank you.